This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. Well, Avram, I know one of the things that has kind of captured your heart over the last couple of years has been the ability to recycle and repurpose electronics, and Microsoft has made that a little harder, or is about to.
Yeah, so interesting little story. My son and I recently joined a local charity around here that does laptop refurbishing. I actually have a laptop right here that I'm refurbishing right now. Uh, this looks like something I would own, but it's actually not. This
It
was
absolutely does.
donated from a business. This is very conveniently. I actually own one very similar to this, but this is an X1 Carbon that a business donated to this charity that I recently joined. And what the rules of the charity are for refurbishing, these are the rules that they came up with before I joined. So uh, maybe they'll change, but um, is that anything that is that we install a fresh copy of Windows on everything, and most of the refurbishing, by the way, is um, of laptops because people want laptops, right? More than they want desktops. So a lot
Fair
of
enough.
the people who ask for stuff from the charity say, "I want a laptop," and they don't want to go to them and say like, "No, we're giving you a desktop." Um, so anyway, although whether it was a laptop or not is kind of irrelevant to this conversation. The the issue is that so anything that can get Windows 11 that is eligible for Windows 11, we will install Windows 11. However, a lot of the laptops they receive are a little too old to meet Windows 11's requirements. As we know, Windows 11 basically you need at least an eighth gen CPU, eighth gen Intel CPU. So, if you look at the CPU and it's Core i7 dash something, it should start with an 8. So like 80 Core i7 8650, right? If it's a 7 or a 6 or a 5, then it probably is not on the compatibility list. Even if it meets the other system requirements, like having at least 4 gigs of RAM and having at least 64 gig SSD and having, uh, I mean, most of the time those older things don't have TPM, which is a security system that Windows 11 requires. So Windows 11 has higher requirements than Windows 10. So what do you do if you have a donated laptop or desktop and it just falls short of the Windows 11 requirements? You have a choice. Well, there's three things you could do if you are a charity like ours and you want to give these computers to people who need them. One, you could say, I'm not going to deal with this computer at all. I'm going to send it to e-waste recycling or throw it away. Um, but e-waste recycle obviously nobody gets that computer then. E-waste recycling means that somebody is going to try and like mine the metals out of it and whatever. But um, you know, even then, there's a lot of energy and electricity and effort and shipping and stuff involved. That's not great for the environment in recycling, in attempting to do recycling. The best recycling is reusing. So, so anyway, you could recycle it. You could install Linux on it, a flavor of Linux that will, or you can install Windows 10. But Windows 10 is coming to its end of life, EOL, in October. That means Windows 10 will no longer receive security updates unless you pay for extended security updates to the tune of, what is it going to be, $61 a year, I think, for the first year,
Yeah, something like that.
right? Which is not something that a computer charity is going to do. They're not going to buy a $61 security package for somebody, and that still only gets them through the first year. So, um, so right now, the charity that I work for has made the decision that they're going to continue to install Windows 10 at least up until the deadline, at least up until October. Um, don't know about after that. But nevertheless, October is only 7 months away. Um, and so, if you give somebody a Windows 10 laptop today, you're giving them something that is going to lose updates uh, in just 7 months. And the question that's obvious is, does it matter? Like Windows 10, like the system won't stop running. There will inevitably be millions of people who continue to run Windows 10 after October. In fact, today, just 7 months before the end of life, uh, Windows 10 computers still outnumber Windows 11. I believe the last I saw from Statista was something like 56% of Windows computers run Windows 10, and only 30 something percent run Windows 11. And then if you're doing math, you realize there's still something like 10 or 20% left. Uh, that is even older versions of Windows that people are still running, right? Like Windows 7 and Windows XP still being run by somebody. So, how bad is it to just run Windows 10? Well, there are going to continue to be security holes that are going to continue to be discovered, and there's going to continue to be, and it's going to continue to be an exploit that, particularly that hackers are going to look for. Even though Windows 10 has been on the market now 10 years, and you might think that they would have caught all the security holes, that is not the case. There are always new security holes coming and being patched. There were new security holes patched as recently as, I think, February. So, um, you know,
Uh, if I'm not
there's
mistaken, PlayStation 3 just put out a patch uh, for the OS for PS3, like last week.
so it never ends, right? It never ends. So this is a dilemma for charities. The charity that I signed up for around here has made the decision to go with Windows 10. But that's not a decision that everybody makes. So I spoke to the CEO of one of the largest refurbishers in America, PCs for People. Uh, PCs for People operates in 11. I mean, they sell stuff online, but they also have brick and mortars. They make, they refurbished 140,000 computers last year, um, and they do, they either sell computers for very cheap, or they, if you're below a certain income threshold, they'll give you one. And PCs for People told me that they decided, like last year, no more Windows 10. If a computer can run Windows 10 only, they will install Linux Mint on it. that is their solution. They will go with Linux Mint. They think that is that's the way to handle it. Now, even they have their limits. They said they will do this on sixth and seventh gen computers. They will do Linux Mint, but if it's older than sixth gen, that's going to recycle. If it's eighth gen or above, then it gets Windows 11. So that's their solution to the problem is to install Linux Mint. Linux Mint will continue to be getting the LTS long-term service version will at this point is scheduled to get updates through 2029, and even then there may be a new version that still runs on that hardware. Um, so those are the choices, but it's kind of you know you kind of tend to think Microsoft's really either deliberately or out of omission not really taking into account secondhand computers, right?
Yeah.
Uh, they really want you to buy a new computer, um, and if you can afford a new computer, that's all lovely. But there's a lot of people who are on the wrong side of the digital divide, and there are charities out there trying to help them, which I think is important because everyone should have a computer. Every like don't just have a phone, don't just have a tablet. Everyone should have a computer. Everyone should have a computer they could use to go on, not just to go online, but to install local software, to program if they need to do tasks that work better on the computer than they do on your phone, like banking and tax returns and stuff like that. Everybody should have a computer. So, and in the home, maybe multiple people need to have their own computers. So, um, that's why I joined this charity and why my son is doing it with me. Um, but we're I don't know if going with Windows 10 at this point was the right choice, but it's a challenge, right? Because you want something that people are familiar with, especially you're giving it to people who are not very tech savvy. And I recently installed Linux Mint in a virtual machine to see just how familiar it feels. And like the basic UI, it has like a start menu, is fine, except you start digging into what software there is, and wait a second, it doesn't come with Chrome. You can get Chrome, but it's not in the App Store. There's Chromium. Uh, you know, no no Microsoft Office. You got to have LibreOffice. You know, uh, my favorite programming Notepad plus plus, Windows only. No Photoshop. There's a lot of things that you still need to learn. And look, if you're a Linux person, you're going to say, but there's other apps that do the same thing. And you're right. But you want something that people are familiar with, especially giving it to people who aren't very tech savvy. So, I think that's the challenge and the dilemma for refurbishers is, do you give people a soon to be expired operating system in Windows 10? And the dilemma will even grow when you get to October, because who knows, you may not even be able to get product keys anymore for Windows 10 at that point.
True.
Probably not,
Probably not. Yeah, I would imagine that probably comes to
right?
an end. Um, the other interesting option that's kind of a middle ground is Chrome OS, right?
Um, why is that? I mean, because it's still an unfamiliar OS. It's just that you're getting an OS that is kind of more idiot proof because it's
But it
only the browser.
But
mainly the browser.
if you're an Android user, there's a lot of the App Store available. It, it gives you the Android gives you access to the Android version of the Office suite, things like that, without uh,
Yeah,
without having to go
yeah,
with Libra. So there is a bit of a middle ground. It doesn't have any of the more direct Linuxy things that some people find annoying because the interface over top of it is more direct, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like in Mint, the Cinnamon interface is what they call Cinnamon
Mm-hmm.
is uh, is decent.
Yeah.
Although I might have gone with Ubuntu over Mint. Um, Mint is based on Ubuntu, so I get that. But a lot of times, if you're looking around for support online, it'll
Yeah.
say like, "Here's how to do this in Ubuntu," and it won't say how to do it in Mint. And generally, if you're smart, you'd be like, "Oh, if Mint is based on Ubuntu, then this Ubuntu instructions should work for Mint." But again, trying to help people who are not necessarily tech savvy, so want to make it easy for them. Uh, I would, if it were me, I think I would go with Ubuntu over Mint because um, all the instructions online say do this in Ubuntu. Uh, for example, if you want to install Chrome browser, um, which does not come with Mint, um, it is not in the App Store. There's Chromium, but that doesn't sync with your Google account. I don't think that can sync with your Google account. So, um, but you can go to the Chrome website and you can install and download the deb file and install that, and that will get you Chrome in Mint. But the instructions say download. You have to choose: do you download this for Ubuntu or download this for, I think, like FreeBSD or something? It doesn't say Mint anywhere. So like, you know, you got to know what you're doing. Um, I think one thing that I'm learning through this experience is there's a lot of choices that you have to make when you're when you're setting up a computer for someone, right? And you're trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator. For example, there's like a 12-page um, document I have to look through for every computer that I fix, and not only do I have to install Windows 10 or 11 on them, but there's a bunch of apps that they want to install, and it's an interesting set of choices that you could agree or disagree with, right? Like they want me to install Adobe Reader on everybody's computer, but you know that Edge, which comes standard, can read PDFs.
I was
So
gonna
do you
say.
need Adobe Reader?
I was gonna say in 2025, not in 2012.
So, right. They want me to install Adobe Reader. They also want me to install both Firefox and Chrome on the computers, which I don't know why you would do that. It already has Edge. If you feel like some people need Chrome because they're used to that ecosystem, I guess you would put Chrome, but I don't think there's a whole bunch of Firefox fans who are going to be sad, um, you know. And then because they want folks to have an office software, we have to install LibreOffice, is what they've chosen, which, you could make the argument that people should just use uh, an online service like Google Drive, which is free,
or Microsoft
right?
just or Microsoft just released a free version of Microsoft 365. I think this week.
Right. I mean, so there's a lot of decisions that people make when refurbishing a system, and then there's certain settings that they want us to change, like what the like they another thing, for example, that they want us to do is to install VLC on everybody's computer. Um, I mean, VLC is better than Windows Media Player, but do you really need it? I don't know, right? Install
Yeah.
VLC and then go into the file associations and associate it with everything that it can play. Um, so it's these are interesting choices uh, that refurbishers make. Like, how much are we going to, like, what software we're going to put on there for people? What do they really need? What's too much? What's enough? One thing that is really important, uh, and again, we're talking about Microsoft making a decision that's very bad for the secondhand computer market, whether it's for charity or for profit, um, is the Windows accounts. So, um, as you know, Microsoft really tries to force you to log in with a Microsoft account, and there are workarounds you can do for which I have an article on, by the way, uh, on Tom's Hardware, um, that allow you to set up a local account and log in with a local account instead of when you install Windows. But by default, they really, really, really try to force you, make it really hard to avoid uh, logging in with a Microsoft account. Well, if you are installing Windows on a computer that does not belong to you, you're setting it up to give to a stranger. You're not going to log in there with your own Microsoft account, right? And you're not going to set up a Microsoft account for the stranger, right? I don't know who's getting this while I'm refurbishing it. I'm not going to go and set up a Microsoft account for them. So I want to give them a computer that, when they turn it on, goes to the desktop, right? So the best way to do that is set up a local account with no password. But again, Microsoft makes that a hassle. You can do it and make it a hassle. So, I think there's a lot of ways in which they really are not thinking about uh, computer charities, and that's really a shame. Like, it's not good for the environment. The path that they're on, that makes it harder to recycle computers. It's not good for all the people who rely on getting a secondhand computer for their access to the modern world.
You know, you were talking about the uh, Microsoft accounts, and at the beginning of this, I was thinking, I wonder if they run them through the OOBE again, the out of box experience. For those of you who don't set up PCs, uh, I was wondering if you guys re-triggered that or not.
No, no, no. We have to do a clean install,
Mm-hmm.
a clean
There,
install.
there's a package that you can run that resets the OOBE. So when you power it on, you can get all the software installed, and then when they power it on the next time, it runs them back through the OOBE.
Oh, yeah, right, right,
It's
right.
it's one of the OEM tools. It's the same thing that Dell does, or
Oh,
HP
right,
or
right. Because
Lenovo.
right, right, right. When we
The
get a
image,
computer,
yeah,
it
it comes with
start. It
software
has.
on it that Dell installed or HP installed or whatever, and then they re-initiate the OOBE before they create the disk image, because obviously Dell and HP aren't doing this individually per device. like you guys are,
Right.
because
No,
they have the same hardware over and
you're
over and
right.
over again.
That happens every. I mean, we get computers to review all the time, right? So
Hmm.
I'm constantly taking new computers out, new laptops out of the box, and yes, we get the out of the box experience thing, which asks you to log in, and then, um, your Windows has been installed,
Hmm.
although it often does things like search for updates or whatever, um, and then um, whatever crapware they've preloaded is there. So we
Exactly.
could preload our own. I still don't think that's the greatest scenario for a charity.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
is it is because what's kind of expected of us now. If we were just mail order, like if we were a mail order refurbisher or something like that, and we were just people were just buying stuff from us for $100, and we were sending it out to them, and we were like, "Good luck with that," or maybe here's some instructions. But one thing we're supposed to do, and I think this is nice, is deliver it to people. Like, this is a local charity. When I get my first one refurbished, they're going to assign me someone. I'm going to go either if it could be a social services organization, in which case I'll just drop it off, but it could be going straight to someone's house. I could be going straight to someone's house and helping them set it up. Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't want to go through that when I set it up, right? Like, I don't want to bring it over to their house and be sitting there and be like, okay, so now let's go through this out of the box experience together. And listen, you need to have a Microsoft account. And if you don't have a Microsoft account, create a Microsoft account. Better write down that password. You know, oh, do you have an email address? Better make sure you have an email address because you're going to get a confirmation email that you have to confirm. Like there's a lot of friction there,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah, the for me the better choice is creating a local account. Um,
Yeah,
it's I
yeah.
I just went through this. I just did a kind of a personal refurb on a machine for my mother, and yeah, I, local account because
Right, right.
because
So,
the
so that's
installer flash drive that's around here somewhere, I think in this drawer over here, it's set to give me that capability.
right, right. So, yeah. So, I mean, there's ways to do it. I mean, the number one way to do it is to use Rufus,
Absolutely.
which is a disk writing, disk burning software, and then it has the option. But even then, it tries. I found that it tries to get you to log in with your Microsoft account unless you cut off the internet. You have to cut. I found you have to cut off the internet
Yep. Now it does. Yeah.
from. So you have to go into like Shift F10 to get the command prompt, and then do ipconfig release. Is how I did it. Um, so anyway, uh, so I have an article
I
up
use
about
it.
this.
I use an older ISO
Okay,
because I didn't want to go through all that.
right. I have an article up about this on Tom's Hardware about how this is, affecting refurbishers. Uh, and, it's just like it's actually, it's something that Microsoft, by the way, I asked them for comment, they wouldn't give me comment, um, does, maybe doesn't care about, and maybe, from their point of view, like people should buy a new computer, but it's a huge, huge thing. Like, there's lots of charities that do this. There's lots of secondhand computers on the market for profit. And we should want people to be refurbishing computers. We should want that. It's good for the environment. It helps people get access to computers. We should we should want that. So uh, it's a shame that Microsoft has put refurbishers in this position.
Yeah, agreed. I I think people know that we work with eSmart here in the Tampa area, and I reached out to Tony at the beginning of this segment to see if he'd respond uh, about how they're handling it. Maybe we can get him on sometime and have a conversation about it. Because, like you said, there's lots of groups. You're part of that one. I work with Tony. We do console refurbishing and recycling with him. It's affecting a lot of people, and yeah, just because some of the PCs from eSmart end up going to like Venezuela doesn't change the fact that still security holes, unless they're not going online. But I don't think that's the case. So, doesn't matter where they're landing. We've still got the same interconnected world issue.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind that like these computers could be pretty good. Like you could have a computer that has 16 gigs of RAM and has like an 8-core processor and doesn't qualify for Windows 11. So it's not like you're just giving people like a garbage computer that's going to take forever to boot and be really horrible. Like it could be a really decent computer for something.
Yeah, because I mean, if you just think about it, the second Surface Studio, the big touchscreen, bendy one, that one, I don't think, and neither one of those were supposed to be supported by Windows 11, and they ended up making an exception on that. But I mean, that was big, expensive hardware, and within a pretty short, window of its own, product end of life, it was about to be totally unsupported by the company that that made it. So,
Yeah.
lots of computers. I mean, that Surface Studio, if I could put my hands on one today, it'd sit right over here. And that's officially, it's an unsupported hardware configuration, and it's one I'd love to have my hands on. So yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
We're not talking. Second gen processors. We're not talking 12, 14, 10, 12 generations old.
Yeah, it could be from something that was bought as recently as 2019.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. It's definitely unfortunate. Hopefully some sort of a scenario can be found. I don't know what it is, but maybe a pressure campaign on Microsoft.
Yeah.
But it's definitely an important topic. That's what I was going for. That I appreciate you bringing to our attention. And as always, I look forward to what we talk about next time. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Piltch Point with Avram Piltch. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, and of course hit the notification bell, since subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. And if you've got topics you'd like us to discuss in the future, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you don't want to follow us on YouTube, that's okay. There's a lot of other ways that you can follow our content. You can find all of that by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.